Hey everybody, Nick here, and sorry about the voice. I've been sick for a little while, and it's still recovering. Trust me, though, I feel a lot better than I sound. But anyways, let's go ahead and do a disassembly and maintenance on this little guy right here. This is the Spyderco Dice. Now, before I go too much further, I do want to thank very much my buddy Andrew for sending this knife along. This is a piece that I've had my eye on quite literally for years, because it's a smaller knife by Spyderco. It's a flipper. There's a lot of joy to be found in this little knife here, and when he offered to donate one to the channel in exchange for when I finish with the review, I will sell it for charity, that was, well, a beautiful thing. So, Andrew, thank you so much for that. I should probably be disassembling this the other direction, although the pivot's coming in from the back side anyways. What the heck. All right, that one's Loctited, as is that one. All right, let's see if we can get this back screw here. There we go. Okay, these back screws willing to come. Yeah, unfortunately, so, Taichung, what we can see here is white thread locker on there. So the Taichung factory does not have as much of a history of using permanent thread locker as the Golden factory, which used the really the bad red stuff. But they still do have some pretty serious thread locking on occasion. And, so what we're seeing there is that in action. Okay, so now we've got enough screws out of this so that it should be able to pop apart, but popping it apart is going to be maybe a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to go ahead and use this piece of plastic. It's actually a food scraper from the Pampered Chef. I don't feel particularly pampered, nor am I a chef, so, I don't know what I'm doing with it. But nonetheless, what this is going to allow us to do is get in there and just pop those pieces apart. Now that we've done that, it's all done. One thing to point out here immediately is, well, it's relatively simple. You've got some internal milling here. You've got a lock bar. I mean, this isn't a particularly unusual or crazy knife in any way, but it is using the Spyderco ultra-thin washer bearing arrangement. Here, I'll see, well, let me wipe some things off while I've got and I'm just going to throw things. Yeah, it's early, guys, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to get these things done. Sometimes you enjoy getting these things done. It is a little after 8 a.m. on a Saturday. Found myself awake. Figured, you know what? It's time to review the dice. Well, time to disassemble the dice, then review it. But anyways, there you go. Been carrying this guy a lot already, and I'd done a disassembly back when, so, let's see if I can pop this loose. But this system here, using these really ultra-thin washers, this is something that Spyderco has done on a number of their knives, perhaps most notably the Spyderco Advocate and the Gale Bradley number. And the number of people have cried foul about this system. There we go. Because, take a look at this. This washer is ultra thin. It is very, 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 very thin. And it's very possible, at least according to some commenters, and I have no trouble believing it, that you can accidentally compress or dent this washer, which will then cause you a world of hurt in your action. You get a gritty action no matter what, if that happens, because this just is so thin it wants to just stick to your hands. But anyways, you can get that really gritty action if this gets compressed, if the ball bearings push into the washer there. So that's something that is, well, less than ideal. And it's something that I gather Spyderco has been working on revising in future models, so that is no longer an issue. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab another swatch of fabric here, and as always, if you are interested in the tools I'm using for this disassembly, I have a video about knife disassembly tools that you can check out that has not only the tools themselves, but links to buy them and whatnot. So there you go. And I'm going to try something slightly newer today. And, you know, because I get a lot of questions. As people know, I have a bit of a backlog. I will film things well in advance of when I need them, so that I not only have a backlog and so that I can keep getting loaners and donations on the road. This guy was filmed right here in September of 2017. So if you're watching this down the road and you're trying to figure out, well, Nick, you've changed so much, you've done everything different, this is when this was filmed. You can see internal stop pin track here, although it's a very wide and generous internal stop pin track, which is something I tend to appreciate just because, you know, it is possible for gunk and whatnot to get trapped in there. Having a wider track makes that a little harder. There we go. And we're pretty much good to go here. Oh, I want to wash off the washers. The bearings, that is. Oh, yeah, some gunk's coming off of there. I'll use a fresh swatch here. They're cheap enough that I can afford to. So just put some booze, rubbing alcohol on the that guy, and then just kind of roll this guy around. Wow, I feel like I sound like hell, guys. I swear I'm alive. And then just kind of roll this around, then flip it over, roll it around again. This both cleans off the bearing cages and it cleans off the bearings individually, because they're allowed to roll on that. It's like cleaning a mouse ball, although I understand that a large portion of my viewership no longer has ever used a mouse that has a ball in it. And that's okay. You're missing the worst of times. I feel like you're lucky, actually, for that. So there you go. I believe we are now ready to go on ahead and reassemble this guy. So let's do that. This just keeps looking dirty, although I guess it's not dirty, it's just worn, I guess. Alrighty, so disassembly, or reassembly that is. Go ahead and put this pivot in here first. It is a D-shaped pivot, so just make sure the D shape is in the proper position. This is why this is not a free spinning pivot, which is something I appreciate deeply. And I'm going to go ahead, and this is just 10 weight nano oil. It's in this nice little pen container thing, which just makes it a little easier to apply a smaller amount of it, which is something that I personally have struggled with in the past. I'll go ahead and apply a little bit to the pivot itself, which is nice. There we go. So now that I've got some oil down, I'll go ahead and put the bearing on there, and I'll just use this to spin the bearing a little bit to get that oil onto the bearing. Now I'll go ahead and drop the, actually, just wipe this off one more time. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil on the detent ball path here. And the detent ball itself is steel, which is fine. And that's good to go. So let's go ahead and drop the blade onto here. And indeed, you can see this is how that stop pin track works. The stop pin stops it over here, stops it over here. It's a smart design, really. I mean, certainly common. Okay. Go ahead and use a little bit more oil over here. There we go. And spin, 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 spin. A little bit here. Okay, what parts have I left out? Lanyard tube. Lanyard tube. Optional part, but it probably does increase the structural integrity very slightly, so why not, right? Okay. So, let's go ahead and reassemble. One thing to highlight, actually, that I didn't highlight is that all the screws are the same size. They're all Torx T8, which is something I appreciate. Next thing, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of Loctite on this guy. I'm going to use a blue Loctite, which is non-permanent, with this. I'm using Loctite on a stick lately, which actually has brought me some joy. You know, it's not functionally any worse. It's just maybe a little easier to apply. Okay, being very careful with this system here. When you tighten the pivot down, make sure you don't over-tighten it. Because if you are going to run into trouble with that super thin washer, very often it's because you over-tightened the pivot or you applied way too much lateral stress. That said, I gotta be honest, I haven't had that issue with that knife, so, with that system that is. So, you know, of all the grand things in the world, it's not something I'm freaking out about. But it does seem like something that Spyderco can probably improve. in the future, and I'd like to see those kinds of CQI, constant quality improvement changes made to this model in the future as well. Going ahead and watching out for that blade. I've got the blade open right now, which frankly isn't a great idea. So let me close that, but pardon me. Always be aware of where your blade is. It's 8 a.m. Do you know where your blade is? There. FYI. In case you were curious. There we go. Slide this in here. With my voice in the shape it is, I don't know that I'm going to be able to film any actual reviews today. We'll see. Okay. So right now, centering is off, and it is favoring the show side, which means that the pivot needs to be tightened, generally speaking. So I'm going to do that. And in fact, as I do that, you're going to see the pivot, or the blade, just kind of walk its way on over there. And so let's stop, see where we're at. We have no blade play, vertical or horizontal. That's actually nicer. That is an improvement, absolutely. This is just going smoother now. And this doesn't have a terribly hard detent, but it's free swinging enough that it's not really a problem. So that's good. No play. You know what? I'm just going to call it a day. I'm not going to futz with it anymore. Don't need to tighten down further. I mean, could maybe loosen it up. Yeah, let me try that. Just see if I can get away running the pivot a little looser. Yeah, still no blade play. Centering is still good. And maybe deploys a little more effortlessly. Yeah, okay. Either way, there we go. We're good to go here. So that is your Spyderco dice. I may have called this the domino at the start of this review. If so, that would have been really confusing. But I hope I didn't. Who knows, though? 8 a.m., anything can happen. But hopefully this was interesting to you, that if you had your own, that you had a good time doing it. And mostly, I hope that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day and that you sound way better than I do. Bye now.